The warning lights flashed red across the bridge of Soul's Pride. Commander. Tejo gripped his chair as the ship shook violently. This was not how Earth's first diplomatic mission to the stars was supposed to go. Young Mi, what's our status? Tejo called to the woman at the navigation station. Chief Diplomat Young Mi looked up from her screen, her face pale. Sir, we have a problem. Our navigation system is completely dead. We're not heading to Kepler-4 for to be anymore. Then where are we going? Tejo demanded. I don't know. The computer won't tell me anything. In the engineering section, Sojin worked frantically at her controls. Sparks flew from damaged panels around her. She had been Earth's best engineer, chosen specifically for this mission. But right now, all her skills felt useless. Sojin, talk. To me, Teo's voice came through the CUM system. The navigation computer has been wiped clean, Sojin replied, sweat dripping down her face. It's like someone deleted everything on purpose. We're flying blind. Across the ship, Dongwu was checking the life support systems. As the mission's chief biologist, he understood how fragile human life could be in space. The readings on his screen made him frown. Commander Dongwu spoke into his headset. Our life support is stable, but I'm detecting something strange. The air recycling system shows we're about to enter a toxic atmosphere. Hai-Jin, the communications officer, tried desperately to reach Earth. She had sent dozens of messages, but none were getting through. Sir, all communications are down. I can't reach Earth or the Galactic Council. We're completely cut off. At the security station, Wu Bin studied the external sensors. What he saw made his blood run cold. Commander, you need to see this. Approaching a planet, and the radiation readings are off the charts. Tejo moved to look at Wu Bin's screen. The planet below them was a swirling mass of red and orange storms. Lightning cracked across its surface like angry veins. That's not Kepler-4 for to be, Young Mi said, joining them. According to the star charts, this system shouldn't even exist. Ship continued its descent whether they wanted it to or not. The engines were dead, and they were caught in the planet's gravity well. Tejo realized they had only one option. Everyone, prepare for emergency landing. Sojin, can you give us any control at all? I'm trying, sir. Maybe I can slow us down. A little, the ship entered the planet's atmosphere with a roar. The hull glowed red-hot as they plunged through the toxic air. Through the viewports, the crew could see a landscape that looked like something from a nightmare. Massive creatures moved across the surface. Some flew through the air on wings that sparked with electricity. Others crawled across the ground, leaving trails of acid behind them. The plants themselves seemed to pulse with a sickly light. This is a death world, Dongwu whispered. Young Mi pulled up what little data they had. According to our basic stellar database, this might be Zarian. Prime, if that's true, we're in serious trouble. Why? What's Zarian Prime? Tejo asked. It's classified as a Level 3 kill zone by the Galactic Council. That means even their military won't come here. Most life forms die within 3 days. The ship hit the ground hard. The impact threw everyone around like toys. Emergency lights flickered on as main power failed. The smell of burning electronics filled the air. Tae-Ho pushed himself up from the floor. Blood ran down his forehead, but he was alive. Around the bridge, the others were picking themselves up too. Sound off, everyone. Are we alive? One by one, his crew reported in. They were hurt, bruised, and scared, but they were breathing. So Jin checked her readings. The good news is, the ship's hull held. The bad news is almost everything else is broken. Life support is running on emergency power. How long do we have? Tejo asked. It'd be 12 hours before the air goes bad. Dongwu was already analyzing. The atmosphere outside. Can't breathe out there without filters. The air is full of acid vapors and toxic spores. Hai-Jin tried the communications again. Still nothing, sir? Whatever's causing the interference is too strong. Wu Bin checked. Their weapons and survival gear. We have emergency supplies for maybe a week if we're careful.
After that, you didn't finish the settings.
Young Mi was studying the crash data on her damaged terminal. Something bothered her about their situation. Commander, I've been thinking about our navigation failure. The timing was too perfect. What do you mean? We lost navigation just as we entered this system? Not before, not after? Exactly when it would strand us here? Taeho considered this. Youngmi was right. The failure had been too convenient to be an accident. You think someone did this to us on purpose? I'm starting to think so. But why would anyone want to strand Earth's first diplomatic mission on a death world? Outside their crashed ship, the planet of Zarian Prime continued its deadly dance. Acid rain began to fall, eating away at anything it touched. In the distance, something howled. It was not a sound any Earth creature had ever made. The crew of Soul's Pride gathered on the damaged bridge. They were alone on one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. They had no way to call for help and limited supplies. But they were human, and humans had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would have wiped out other species. They had not come this far to die on some alien world. Taho looked at his team. Sojin, brilliant and determined. Youngmi, smart and diplomatic. Dongwoo, curious and careful. Jin, resourceful and brave. Woobin, strong and protective. All right, people. This is not how we planned to represent Earth to the galaxy, but here we are. We have two choices. We can sit here and wait to die, or we can figure out how to survive. Sojin managed a small smile. Sir, with respect, sitting around waiting to die has never been humanity's strong point. Good then. Let's get to work. Sojin, I need you to see what you can salvage from the ship. Dongwoo, start analyzing everything about this planet's environment. Haijin, keep trying to establish communications. Woobin, Youngmi, help me figure out what we're dealing with out there. As if in answer to his words, something large moved. Past their viewport was the size of a bus, covered in spikes, and it left a trail of glowing slime behind it. Well, Youngmi said quietly, this is going to be interesting. The first day on Zarian Prime had begun. None of them knew that their struggle for survival would change the entire galaxy. They only knew that they were alive, they were together, and they were not going to give up. Outside, the planet waited to test them in ways they could never imagine. 3 days had passed since the crash. By all galactic standards, the crew of Soul's Pride should have been dead. Instead, they were doing something no one expected. They were getting better at surviving. Sojin wiped grease from her hands as she stepped back from her latest creation. She had taken parts from the broken navigation system and turned them into an air purifier. It was not pretty, but it worked. There, she said to Taeho, this should clean the air enough for us to work outside for short periods. The commander nodded. In 3 days, Sojin had built air filters, water purifiers, and even a basic power generator using nothing but crashed debris. Her engineering skills were keeping them all alive. How long can we stay outside with these filters? Taeho asked. Maybe 2 hours at a time? The toxic spores are really aggressive. Across the makeshift camp they had set up in the ship's cargo bay, Youngmi was working. On something unexpected, she was building traps. The diplomatic expert had her sleeves rolled up in dirt under her fingernails. Youngmi, how's the trap line coming? Taeho called. She looked up from the snare she was constructing. I've caught 3 of those rabbit-like creatures in the past day. They're actually edible once you remove the poison sacs. Dongwoo looked up from his workstation where he was processing the latest catch. Yomi is right. These creatures have a complex poison system, but if you know where to cut, the meat is quite nutritious. It amazed Taeho how quickly his diplomatic officer had adapted. Youngmi had spent years learning to negotiate with alien species. She was using those same observation skills to hunt them. The key is understanding their behavior, Youngmi explained as she set another trap. They're curious, but cautious. It's kind of like nervous diplomats at their first galactic summit. Dongwoo had been making the most surprising discoveries. Biologists had found that many of the planet's deadly plants could actually help them. He held up a purple flower that glowed with soft light. This should kill us instantly, Dongwoo said. But if you ferment it the right way, like making kimchi back home, it becomes medicine. Medicine for what? Woobin asked. Everything. Infections. Pain. Even radiation sickness. The fermentation process breaks down the toxins and creates beneficial compounds. Dongwoo had jars lined up along one wall. each filled with different plant materials in various stages of fermentation. The smell was terrible, but the results were amazing. How did you figure this out? Teho asked. I watched how the local animals eat certain plants at specific times. Then I remembered how my grandmother used to ferment vegetables. Same basic process. Hyjin had been working on the communications equipment non-stop. Her station looked like an explosion in an electronics factory, but she was making progress. Getting something? She announced suddenly. It's not Earth, but there are other signals on this planet. Everyone gathered around her jury-rigged receiver. Strange voices spoke in languages none of them recognized, but the meaning was clear. They were not alone on Zarian Prime. How many others are there? Teho asked. Hard to tell. At least 3 different groups, maybe more. They're using very basic communication methods, like they don't want to be detected. Young Mi leaned forward. Can you determine their locations? Roughly, there's one group about 10 kilometers north of us. Another group is in the mountains to the east. The third signal is coming from underground somewhere. Wubin had been studying the planet's predators. The security chief had always been good at understanding threats, and Zarian Prime had plenty of them. The big spider things hunt in packs, he reported during their evening briefing. They're smart. They use tools. They're learning our patterns. Learning how? Teho asked. They watch us. I've seen the same 3 individuals observing our camp for the past 2 days. They're studying how we move when we come outside. What we do, but Wubin had been studying them right back. The good news is, they're predictable. They hunt at dawn and dusk. They avoid the acid rain, and they don't like loud noises. Sojin had rigged up a speaker system that could produce various sounds. We can use noise to keep them away from important areas. Okay. On their 4th morning, the crew made first contact with other survivors. A group of tall blue-skinned beings approached their camp under a white flag made from salvaged fabric. The leader of the aliens was thin and looked exhausted. When he spoke, his voice was filled with despair. You are the new arrivals, he said in broken but understandable English. We saw your ship fall. We came to collect your bodies. Sorry to disappoint you, Young Mi replied with a diplomat's smile. We're still using them. The alien stared at her in confusion. You have been here for days. You should be dead. We're working on staying alive a bit longer, Teho said. I'm Commander Teho. These are my people. What's your name? Kelthar of the Altarian people. We have been trapped on this world for 3 years. 3 years. Teho could see why Kelthar looked so defeated. How many of you are there? 47 remain from our original crew of 200. This planet kills everyone eventually. Young Mi stepped forward. Maybe we can help each other. We're learning to work with this environment instead of just fighting it. Kelthar laughed, but there was no humor in it. Work with it. You understand nothing. This world does not just kill you. It changes you. It makes you into something else. And when it is finished, they come. Who comes? Wubin asked, his hand moving instinctively toward his weapon. The Watchers. The ones who put us here. They collect what this world creates. A chill ran through the human crew. Teho exchanged glances with Young Mi. Their suspicions about the crash were proving correct. Tell us everything, Young Mi said gently. We're all trapped here together. Kelthar looked at the humans with something that might have been hope. You are different. Most new arrivals die quickly or go mad. But you seem to be thriving, Ao Sojin spoke up. We adapt. We learn. We work together. We don't give up, Dongwu added. Never, Hyjin confirmed. Kelthar studied them for a long moment. Perhaps you were different. Very well, I'll tell you what we know. But first you must understand the most important rule of Zarian Prime. What's that? Teho asked. Trust no one completely. This world changes people, sometimes in ways you cannot see until it is too late. As if summoned by his words, something howled in the distance. It was not the sound of any animal they had heard before. It was something that had once been intelligent, but was no longer. Entirely sane, Young Mi moved closer to Teho. What was that? Kelthar's face grew even more grim. That was Jorok. He was our engineer. Brilliant mind. The planet took him 6 months ago. He still thinks he is trying to help us, the humans realized. That survival was just the beginning of their problems. Zarian Prime did not just test your body, it tested your mind and your soul. But they were human, and humans had a long history of helping each other stay sane in impossible situations. The real test was just beginning. Kelthor led the humans through the twisted landscape to the Altarian camp. What they found there shocked them. The alien survivors lived like broken animals, hiding in caves and eating scraps. Their once proud technology lay in ruins around them. "This is how we survive," Kelthor said bitterly. "We hide, we run, we die slowly." Young Me looked around at the 47 survivors. They were thin, scared, and hopeless. Many had scars that looked like they came from fighting each other. "How long did you say you've been here?" she asked. 3 years, 2 months, 16 days, Kelthor replied immediately. "I count every sunrise, hoping it will be my last." Teho frowned. "But you have technology, weapons, knowledge. Why haven't you built anything to help yourselves?" An older Altarian named Vex laughed harshly. "Build what? Escape ships. They shoot them down. Weapons. They take them away. Hope. They crush it like insects." "Who is they?" Ubin demanded. Kelthor and Vex exchanged looks. Finally, Kelthor spoke. "Come, we will show you. But first you must swear never to try to escape. Those who try to leave bring punishment on all of us." The humans followed the Altarians deeper into their cave system. Hidden in the deepest chamber was something that made everyone stop breathing. It was a monitoring station, clearly not built by the Altarians. The technology was sleek and advanced. Screens showed every part of the planet's surface. Cameras tracked the movements of all the survivor groups. Computer systems recorded everything. "We found this 2 years ago," Kelthor explained. "They watch everything. They record everything. They study us like laboratory animals." Sojin examined the equipment closely. "This is incredibly advanced. Whoever built this has technology far beyond anything I've ever seen." Hyjin found communication logs. "Look at this. They're sending regular reports somewhere." The latest one was 3 days ago. Youngmi read over her shoulder. The report was written in Galactic standard language, but the contents were horrifying. Subject group Altarian 47 showing continued degradation. Recommend harvest in next cycle. Subject group Human 6 displaying unexpected adaptation patterns. Extend observation period. Harvest, Teho said quietly. "They're talking about harvesting people." Dongwu was studying biological data files. "They're not just watching us. They're studying how we adapt to this environment. Look at this data. On genetic changes, the files showed detailed studies of how different species changed on Zarian Prime. Some grew stronger. Others developed new abilities. Many went insane. All were carefully documented. This is a testing ground," Youngmi realized. "They strand different species here to see how we evolve under extreme pressure." Vex nodded grimly. "We figured this out months ago, but knowing does not help. We cannot escape, cannot fight, can only wait for them to decide we are ready." "For harvest? What happens during harvest?" Wubin asked. "Ships come down. They take the interesting ones for further study. They kill the rest." Kelthor pulled up more files. "Look at the species that came before us. Hundreds of different groups over the centuries. All tested, all harvested, all gone." The data was overwhelming. Species after species had been brought to Zarian Prime. The strongest and most adaptable were taken away for unknown purposes. The rest were eliminated to hide the evidence. But who is doing this? Teho asked. Young Dashmi was studying the political implications. Her diplomatic training helped her understand the bigger picture. This has to be a conspiracy within the Galactic Council. Someone with access to navigation systems. Someone who can make ships disappear without questions. She pulled up star charts on the monitoring system. "Look at the species they've targeted. All of them were potential rivals to the established galactic powers. Strong species, innovative species, species that might challenge the current order, including humanity," Sojin said quietly. The truth hit them all at once. Earth's first diplomatic mission had not suffered a random navigation failure. They had been deliberately sent to Zarian Prime to be tested and harvested. They sabotaged our ship, Hajin said angrily. Oh. They wanted to see what humans would do under pressure. But Dongwu was looking at something else in the data files. Wait, look at this. The reports about us are different from all the others. He showed them the monitoring station's analysis of human behavior. Where other species had either died quickly or barely survived, humans were actually improving their situation. They expected us to fail within days, Dongwu continued. Instead, we're making the planet more livable. It's not just for us, but for everyone. The monitoring system had recorded everything. Sojin's innovations that helped all the survivors. Dongwu's medicines that worked on multiple species. Youngmi's success in bringing groups together. We're not following their predicted patterns, Youngmi realized. That's why they're extending our observation period. Kelthur stared at the humans with growing amazement. You came here 6 days ago? You've been here 3 years. But you have done more to help all of us than we managed in all that time. That's what humans do, Tejo said simply. We help each other. Even when it is not your people, Vex asked. People are people, Youngmi replied. It doesn't matter what planet you're from.
Altarians looked at each other in wonder.
This was a completely foreign concept to them. Most species in the galaxy put their own survival first, but the monitoring station was recording everything. The conspirators now knew that humans were different, more dangerous to their plans than they had expected. We have a choice to make. Tejo said to his crew, we can try to escape and warn Earth about this conspiracy, or we can stay and help everyone here. If we try to escape, they'll kill everyone as punishment, Youngmi pointed out. If we stay, they'll eventually harvest us all anyway, Wubin added. So Dash Jin was studying the monitoring equipment more closely. Maybe there's a third option. What if we could turn their own system against them? How? Jin asked. This monitoring station is connected to their main network. If I could hack into it, we might be able to expose the whole conspiracy. Dongwu nodded. I've been working on something that might help us fight back. The fermented plant medicines I've been making. I think I can create compounds that will enhance our abilities. Kelthor looked confused. You want to fight them? They have warships, armies, resources beyond counting. Maybe, Tejo said, but they've been studying species who either died or gave up. They've never dealt with humans who refused to quit, Youngmi smiled. And they definitely haven't dealt with humans who make friends with everyone they meet. For the first time in 3 years, something flickered in Kelthor's eyes. It might have been hope. What do you need us to do? Help. Help us contact the other survivor groups, Youngmi said. All of them. If we're going to fight back, we need everyone working together? That is impossible. The groups hate each other. They've been fighting for resources for years. Let us worry about that, Youngmi replied. Diplomacy is what I do best. Outside the cave, something howled in the distance. It was the sound of Jorak, the engineer who had been broken by the planet. But for the first time, the humans heard something else in that sound. It was not just madness, it was rage. And rage could be useful. The conspiracy had made a critical error. They had assumed humans would behave like every other species they had tested. They were about to learn why that assumption was dangerous. Youngmi stood at the edge of what had once been a battlefield. 2 groups of survivors faced each other across a field of broken rocks and acid-burned metal. The Zephyrians and the Mokari had been fighting over this water source for 2 years. They will kill each other before they listen to us, Kelthor whispered beside her. Then we make sure they listen first, Youngmi replied calmly. She walked into the middle of the battlefield, her hands raised and empty. Both groups immediately pointed weapons at her. I'm Youngmi of Earth, she called out in Galactic Standard. I have something that belongs to both of you. The Zephyrian commander, a reptilian being named Scarth, hissed angrily. Human, leave. Now or die with the Rocketers, as the Mokari leader Grinda growled from behind her stone barrier. Soft skin, this is not your fight. Youngmi smiled and pulled out a container of Dongwu's fermented medicine. You're right, this isn't my fight. This is your fight over water that's slowly poisoning both your people. She held up the container. This medicine neutralizes the toxins in the water. There's enough here to treat everyone from both groups. but I'll only give it to people who are willing to share the water source. Scarth raised his weapon higher. Lies. Nothing can neutralize this planet's poisons, Kelthur, young me called. Tell them about your arm. The Altarian stepped forward and pulled up his sleeve. Where once there had been a festering wound from acid exposure, now there was healthy skin. The human's medicine healed me in 3 days, Kelthor announced. It works. Brenda studied them suspiciously. What do you want in return? Help young me? Said simply. We're building a resistance against the ones who put us all here. We need everyone working together. The two commanders looked at each other, then back at young me. Slowly, Scarth lowered his weapon. Explain this resistance, he said. 3 hours later, young me had negotiated the first peace treaty in Zarian Prime's recorded history. The Zephyrians and Mokari agreed to share the water source and pool their resources for defense. Meanwhile, Sojin was working on the technical side of their rebellion. She had spent 2 weeks studying the monitoring station's technology, taking it apart piece by piece. I think I understand how their communication system works, she told Taeho as she soldered components together. They use quantum entanglement for instant communication across the galaxy. Can you hack into it? Haijin asked hopefully. Better than that, I can turn it into a broadcast system. If we can get enough power, we could send messages to every planet in the galactic network at once. Wubin looked up from the weapons he was modifying. How much power? More than we have, but I have an idea. The planet's lightning storms carry massive electrical charges. If we could tap into one of those storms... That sounds incredibly dangerous, Dongwu said. Everything we're doing is dangerous, Sojin replied with a grin. At least this way. If we die, we'll go out with style. Dongwu had been working on his own contribution to the resistance. His fermented medicines were proving more powerful than anyone had expected. The latest batch could enhance strength, speed, and mental clarity for short periods. I call it courage soup, he said, stirring a pot of bubbling purple liquid. Tastes terrible, but it makes you feel like you can fight anything. Have you tested it? Taeho asked. All myself. For about an hour, I felt like I could punch through steel walls. Then I crashed and slept for 6 hours. Kelthor tried a small dose, and his eyes widened. This is remarkable. I feel... strong. Confident. Get overconfident, Dongwu warned. The effects are temporary, and too much will make you sick. Haijin had been working on establishing communication with all the survivor groups scattered across the planet. Her jerry-rigged network now connected 17 different camps. I have good news and bad news, she reported during their evening briefing. The good news is, I've made contact with every survivor group on the planet. The bad news is, half of them think we're crazy. Why? Young Mi asked. They can't believe anyone would be stupid enough to fight back against the conspiracy. Them just want to keep their heads down and hope they're not chosen for harvest. Wubin had been training volunteers from different species in human military tactics. It was challenging work, since each species had different physical capabilities and cultural backgrounds. The Zephyrians are natural scouts, he explained to Taeho. Fast and quiet. The Mokari are perfect for heavy assault, strong and tough. The Altarians are excellent with technology. What about the others? The Vorthok have natural armor and can dig tunnel systems. The Sileni can fly and provide aerial reconnaissance. Even the Bendari, who everyone thinks are useless, turn out to be excellent at camouflage and stealth operations. It was becoming clear that every species had unique strengths. The conspiracy had probably planned to harvest these abilities separately, but humans were combining them into something much more powerful. The first test of their growing alliance came when the monitoring station detected their activities. Automated defense systems activated, sending hunter drones to eliminate the resistance. The drones were sleek, fast, and deadly. They had been designed to handle individual survivors or small groups. They were not prepared for coordinated resistance. Scarth's Zephyrian spotted the drones first and warned the network. Grenda's Mokari provided heavy firepower from fortified positions. Kelthur's Altarians used their technical knowledge to jam the drones. Communications at Sojin had rigged electromagnetic pulse devices that disabled the drone systems.
Wubin,
coordinated the overall defense. Yang Mi kept everyone focused and working together. When the smoke cleared, all 1,200 drones lay in pieces across the battlefield. Not a single survivor had been killed. "We did it," Kelther said in amazement. "We actually fought them and won." But their celebration was short-lived. Hai-Jin intercepted a transmission from the monitoring station to its controllers. The message was brief but terrifying. Automated defenses compromised. Subjects displaying unprecedented cooperation. Recommend immediate harvest protocols. Send the fleet. Taeho gathered his core team around him. "How long do we have?" "Based on the distance to the nearest coalition world, maybe 2 weeks," Young Mi calculated. "Can we be ready in 2 weeks?" Taeho asked. So Jin looked at her half-finished broadcast. "Device, I need more time to tap into the lightning storms." Dongwu checked his medicine supplies. "I can make enough courage soup for maybe 50 people." Wu Bin counted their forces. Volunteers from every species, but most of them have never fought together before. Jin monitored the communications. The other survivor groups are scared. Some are talking about surrendering to save themselves. Young Mi stood up slowly. "Then we need to give them something to believe in, something worth fighting for." "What?" Kelther asked. Young Mi said, "Real hope that we can not only survive this, but actually win." That night, Young Mi broadcast a message to every survivor group on the planet. Her words were simple but powerful. Says Young Mi of Earth, "In 2 weeks, ships will come to harvest us. They expect to find broken survivors ready to give up. Instead, they will find something they have never encountered before. We'll find species who refuse to abandon each other. Species who have learned to work together. Species who remember. That freedom is worth fighting for. We may not win, but we will show them that some things cannot be harvested. Courage cannot be taken, hope cannot be destroyed, and unity cannot be broken. Stand with us. Fight with us. Show the galaxy that we are more than test subjects in their laboratory." Across the planet, survivors listened to her words. Many were afraid. Some were skeptical. But for the first time in years, they were not hopeless. The resistance was born. The harvest fleet arrived exactly 2 weeks later. 12 massive warships dropped out of hyperspace and took positions around Zarian Prime. Each ship was the size of a city and carried enough firepower to destroy the planet's surface. "Commander." The ex of the coalition forces studied the scanner readings from his flagship. Something was wrong. According to his data, there should be scattered groups of broken survivors hiding in caves. Instead, his sensors showed organized defensive positions and coordinated movement patterns. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting unusual electromagnetic activity across the planet's surface." "Unusual how?" "The survivors appear to have tapped into the lightning storms. They're using the planet's own electrical system as a power source." Dex frowned. In 300 years of harvest operations, no survivor group had ever managed anything like this. Send down the hunter squads. Standard collection protocols. On the planet's surface, Taeho watched the enemy dropships descend through the toxic atmosphere. Beside him, representatives from every survivor group waited for his signal. Remember, he said into his communicator, "We're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to survive long enough for Sojin's plan to work." Sojin was positioned at the main lightning collector, a massive device she had built to channel the planet's electrical storms. "I need exactly 17 minutes to charge the broadcast system," she reported. "After that, we can send our message to the entire galaxy." "You'll have your 17 minutes," Ubin promised from his command position. The first wave of coalition soldiers hit the ground expecting minimal resistance. Instead, they found themselves facing something no military manual had prepared. Them four. The survivors were fighting like a single organism. Scarths, Zephyrians struck from the shadows, their natural speed letting them hit and disappear before the enemy could respond. Grenda's Mokari held fortified positions that seemed impossible to break. Kelther's Altarians turned the coalition's own technology against them, jamming communications and disrupting targeting systems. But the real surprise was how they worked together. When Zephyrians were forced to retreat, Mokari heavy weapons covered their withdrawal. When Mokari positions were threatened, Altarian technical specialists provided electronic support. "What is this?" shouted Captain Vork as his squad was pinned down by coordinated fire. "These are supposed to be broken survivors." His answer came from above, as Silently flyers dropped Dongwu's explosive compounds directly onto his position. The captain's last thought was confusion about how prey species had learned to hunt in packs. Young Dashmi was coordinating the overall defense from a hidden command post. Her diplomatic training had taught her to understand different perspectives, and now she used that skill to predict enemy movements. "They're trying to split our forces," she announced over the communication network. "Wubin, they're going to hit the eastern ridge next." "Confirmed," Wubin replied. "Grenda, can your people reinforce Sector 7? "Already moving," the Mokari leader responded. The coalition forces found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to know their tactics better than they did. Every move was anticipated. Every weakness was exploited. Every advantage was turned against them. Commander Thex watched the battle reports with growing anger. His forces should have swept through the survivors in minutes. Instead, they were taking heavy casualties and making no progress. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're detecting massive energy buildup near the crash site of the human vessel." "What kind of energy?" "Unknown, sir, but it's building towards some kind of transmission." Thex realized that whatever the survivors were planning, it involved broadcasting something to the galaxy that could not be allowed. "Prepare orbital bombardment," he ordered. "Target the energy source." "Sir, orbital bombardment of a Level-3 kill zone is against galactic law. No one will know if there are no survivors to report it," Dex replied coldly. The first orbital strike lit up the sky like a miniature sun. The beam of energy carved a crater where Sojin's first lightning collector had been. But instead of destroying their hopes, it revealed the true scope of human planning. "That was collector number 1, Sojin reported calmly, switching to collector number 2. She had built 12 lightning collectors across the planet, each one hidden and each one capable of powering her broadcast device. The coalition would have to find and destroy all of them to stop her plan. "You magnificent genius," Hijen laughed as she rerouted power through the backup systems. "How long did you spend building all of these?" "Every night for 2 weeks, Sojin replied. "I figured they would try orbital bombardment eventually, but the orbital strikes had an unintended effect. They violated galactic law so blatantly that even the coalition's own soldiers began to question their orders. Youngmi had been waiting for this moment. She activated the wideband communicator Hajin had hidden in the coalition's own communication network. Attention coalition forces, her voice rang out across every ship and every communication device. "You are currently participating in war. Crimes against civilian survivors. Your commanders have ordered the bombardment of non-combatants in violation of galactic law. My name is Youngmi of Earth. We are the survivors of a conspiracy that has operated for centuries. Your leaders have been kidnapping species and testing them on this planet. They harvest the strongest and kill the rest to hide the evidence." The coalition ships, soldiers looked at each other with confusion and growing anger. Many of them had families. The idea that they were killing civilians did not sit well with warriors who thought they were fighting legitimate battles. Captain Morith of the 3rd Assault Ship accessed his command codes and reviewed the mission files. What he found there made his blood run cold. Operation Harvest was not a military action, it was genocide. "This is Captain Moreth to all ships," he announced over the fleet communication network. "I am declaring this operation illegal under Galactic law. I will not participate in the murder of civilians." Commander Thex watched in horror as 3 of his 12 ships withdrew from the battle. Other captains were demanding to see the real mission files. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the energy buildup is reaching critical levels. Whatever they're planning, it's almost ready." Sojin's voice crackled over the comm system. "Broadcast system at full power. Hi Jin, you're connected to every communication network in the galaxy. Ready when you are," Hi Jin confirmed. Young Dashmi took a deep breath. In a few moments, she would address the entire galactic community. Everything depended on what she said next. This is young me of Earth speaking for all the survivors of Zarian Prime. For centuries, the conspiracy within your governments has been testing species on this world. They strand us here, study how we adapt, and harvest the strongest while killing the rest. But something went wrong with their plan. They expected us to fight each other. Instead, we learned to work together. They expected us to break under pressure. Instead, we became stronger. Right now, coalition forces are bombing civilian survivors in violation of galactic law. This is happening because we discovered their secret and they want to hide the evidence. We are not asking for rescue. We are not asking for help. We are telling you that some things cannot be harvested, courage cannot be taken, hope cannot be destroyed, and unity cannot be broken. The conspiracy ends today. Across the galaxy, billions of beings heard her words. On every world, in every world, home, the evidence of the conspiracy played on their screens. The galaxy would never be the same. Young Me's broadcast reached every corner of the galaxy in real time. On Altair Prime, families watched in horror as their government's involvement in the conspiracy was revealed.
Out!
On Zephyr, protesters filled the streets demanding answers. On Mokati, the military council called for immediate investigations, but the most dramatic response came from Earth itself, Admiral Park Jiwoo of the Earth Defense. Fleet had been monitoring space for any sign of Soul's Pride for months. When Hyjin's signal finally reached Earth, it carried more than just evidence of the conspiracy. It carried a call for help that could not be ignored. All ships prepare for immediate departure, Admiral Park ordered. We're going to bring our people home. The Earth fleet that jumped toward Zarian Prime was small compared to the Coalition forces. Only 8 ships against what remained of the UHEF Harvest Fleet. But they were not coming alone. Across the galaxy, other species were responding to Young Me's message. The Can-3 Republic launched their fastest ships. The Free Worlds Alliance diverted 3 battle groups. Even species that had never worked together before were united by outrage at the conspiracy. On Zarian Prime, the situation was changing by the hour. More coalition ships were withdrawing, as their captains refused to participate in war crimes. Commander Vex found himself with only 5 ships still following orders. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're detecting incoming hyperspace signatures. Multiple fleets approaching our position. How many?" Vex demanded.
At least
40 ships from a dozen different species. "Sir, they're broadcasting surrender demands." Dex realized his position was hopeless. But the conspiracy had one last card to play. If they could not harvest the survivors quietly, they would eliminate all evidence of their crimes. "Prepare planet-killer weapons," he ordered. "If we cannot have them, no one can." On the surface, Wubin detected the massive energy buildup in the remaining coalition ships. They're preparing something big, weapons that could crack the planet. Teho looked around at all the species they had united. Altarians, Zephyrians, Makari, Cylani, Vorthok, Bendari, and humans. All of them working together. All of them about to die. "Not like this," he said quietly. "We did not come this far to watch them destroy everything we built." Sojin was already working at her equipment. "I have one more idea, but it's completely insane." "We specialize in insane," Young Mi said. "What do you need?" "I can overload the lightning collectors. All of them at once. We're creating an electromagnetic slot. Pulse strong enough to disable every ship in orbit." "What's the downside?" Dongwu asked. "We'll also destroy every piece of electronics on the planet, including life support systems. We'll have maybe an hour before the atmosphere becomes unbreathable." Kelthor stepped forward. "Do it. Better to die free than live as experiments." "Wait," Hyjin said suddenly. "I'm receiving a transmission. It's Admiral Park of the Earth Defense Fleet." The voice that came through their speakers was strong and determined. "This is Admiral Park to all survivors on Zarian Prime. Hold your position. Earth is coming for you." Moments later, the sky filled with ships dropping out of hyperspace, and Earth vessels, Altarian cruisers, Zephyrian scouts, Makari battleships, and dozens of others. The rescue fleet had arrived. Commander Vex found himself surrounded by an alliance that should not have been possible. Species that had been enemies for generations were working together to protect the survivors of Zarian Prime. This is Admiral Park. 2 Coalition forces came the broadcast. You were ordered to stand down immediately. Your actions here constitute war crimes under galactic law. Earth has no authority here, Vex replied angrily. Earth speaks for the new Galactic Alliance, Admiral Park responded. 43 species have joined together to end the conspiracy you represent. Surrender now, or face the consequences. Looked at his tactical display. 5 ships against an Alliance fleet of over 60. The choice was clear, but his pride would not let him surrender. All ships, fire at will, he ordered. The battle was brief and decisive. Coalition technology was advanced, but it could not overcome the coordinated tactics the Alliance had learned from human military doctrine. Ships that had never fought together moved like parts of a single organism. When the shooting stopped, Commander Vex's flagship was disabled and drifting. The other Coalition ships had either surrendered or been destroyed. The rescue operation began immediately. Shuttles landed across Zarian Prime to evacuate the survivors. But something unexpected happened. Many of them did not want to leave. This is our world now, Scarth told the Zephyrian rescue captain. We have built something here, something worth keeping, Grenda agreed. My people want to stay and help build a colony, a place where different species can live together.
Admiral.
Park met with Tejo at the crash site of Soul's Pride. Commander, Earth is proud of what you accomplished here, but we're ready to bring you home. Tejo looked around at the community they had built. Former enemies working side by side to repair damaged settlements. Scientists from different species sharing knowledge. Children of various species playing. Together without fear, Admiral, with respect, I think this is home now. Young me joined them. The Galactic Council has collapsed. The conspiracy has been exposed. Someone needs to help build something better. And you want to do that here? Admiral Park asked, on a Level 3 kill zone. Sojin laughed as she approached with Dongwu and Haijin. It's not a kill zone anymore. Look around. We've turned it into something beautiful. She was right. The planet that had once been a nightmare was transforming. Dongwu's biological innovations had created new ecosystems. Sojin's engineering had tamed the deadly storms. The cooperation of multiple species had built cities where there had once been only wasteland. Besides, Dongwu added, someone needs to run the research station we're building. A place where species can study cooperation instead of conflict. Admiral Park smiled. And I suppose you volunteer for that job? All of us do, Haijin said. This is what humans do. We make families out of strangers. 6 months later, young me stood before the newly formed Galactic Assembly. The old council chamber had been torn down and replaced with something that reflected the new reality. Representatives from over 100 species sat together as equals. The conspiracy taught us something important, she told the assembled delegates. They showed us what happens when we see each other as enemies instead of potential friends. Zarian Prime was meant to be a place of death and testing. Instead, it became a place of life and learning. Survivors there did not just endure. They built something new. That is what we must do now. Build something new from the ashes of the old system. She gestured to the mixed audience before her. Look around you. Species that were enemies 6 months ago now work together. Technologies that were secrets are now shared freely. Worlds that were isolated now welcome visitors. This is humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not our technology or our weapons, but our belief that every person matters, that no one should be left behind. That cooperation is stronger than competition. The applause that followed came from beings with very different ideas about sound and communication, but the meaning was universal. Hope had returned to the galaxy. Back on Zarian Prime, Tejo walked through the growing city that surrounded the crash site of Soul's Pride. The ship had been converted into a memorial and museum, a reminder of how far they had all come. Wubin approached with a report from the Planetary Defense Force. Sir, another ship of refugees just arrived from the Outer Rim. They want to join the colony. Any particular species? Mixed group? Survivors. From 3 different worlds that were destroyed in the conspiracy's final days, they heard about what we built here. Tejo nodded. Find them homes. Find them work. make them family.
Sir.
As the sun set over Zarian Prime, its light reflected off the electromagnetic collectors that now powered a thriving civilization. The storms that had once been deadly now provided clean energy for the entire planet. In the distance, children of a dozen different species played in parks that had been built where monitoring stations once stood. Their laughter carried on the
Wind.
a sound that the planet had never heard before humans arrived. They had been dropped on a Level-3 kill zone with orders to die quietly. Instead, they had taught the galaxy how to live loudly. Together, the conspiracy had been right about one thing. Staying alive had not been the toughest part. The toughest part had been showing everyone else that survival was just the beginning.